Okay.
Oh, we're on YouTube.
Ready to start?
We're on.
Yes.
All right. Welcome to the February 2021 meeting of the Town of Clifton, Virginia Town Council. We're meeting electronically by Zoom because of the COVID-19 pandemic that's been going on for some time now, and in accordance with duly adopted measures, processes, resolutions, etc., including legislation passed by the General Assembly, we're allowed to, for this time of the pandemic, allowed to meet electronically and not in person as we typically would back in the...
I found this on the web.
Okay. Many moons ago when we used to meet in public in person. But for now,
The
let me
olden
go
days.
So with that, and just as always, we're told we have to go through this. We publish the agenda ahead of time, and everyone's given the opportunity to attend the meeting and to speak at the meeting if they would like to speak for 3 minutes to address the council. I don't think anyone signed up for this meeting. And to watch via YouTube or to watch live as well. So trying to improve transparency in the government. With that intro, we'll go to our usual order of business. As with the published agenda, the first item being the town clerk's report.
I circulated the draft minutes for January and I did not receive any requested revisions.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the minutes for the January meeting as they were drafted.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Anything else from the clerk's report?
That's all I have.
All right, and I have been kicked out of my usual dwelling place for these meetings, which is why I'm in an alternative undisclosed location somewhere, which we can do now with Zoom. For security reasons, for continuity of government, etc., that I be in a place that is safe and secure. Treasurer's report.
Okay. I'll just keep this to the main highlights since I've heard that you all are hearing an awful lot from me lately about numbers. So I'll just make this a brief since I've sent everything out to you all. Our summary of cash balances as of the end of January is $1,320,295. For the COVID report, the main highlight is that the county has approved extending the time frame for which we can utilize the already granted initial grant funds. They changed it from December 30th to June 30th. So we don't have to have spent the funds by December 30th, and we don't have to return the funds at this point in time. So we can continue utilizing the funds for whatever costs that we incur, which would include the position time, Amanda and my time for the COVID positions, as well as the Zoom fees. If there are additional purchases that the town wants to make that would qualify under the CARES Act, then we can make those expenditures that would be covered by the funds. And we can then close out the grant either by June 30th or before, when we have distributed the funds or we have expended the funds. If there are additional funds that are granted to the localities through new funding initiatives, it would be under a new subrecipient agreement that may have different guidelines. They may allow grants, additional grants to restaurants as a new time frame, or they may end up saying there are different guidelines. So we wouldn't know that until additional funds were distributed. But for the grant that we now have, we can continue spending the funds through the end of June. So in that light, Fairfax County has provided us with an amendment to the subrecipient agreement that I attached in the presentation to you all. And it's basically extending the time frame. So that would be one action item that we have to make. Other highlights that are substantial highlights that aren't just the little things would be, let's see here. For sales tax, we received $3,022 for November. They're always 2 months behind in their timing. We received vehicle tags of another $186 that were received in December. And the motor vehicle fees that have been received to date are $6,668. Under contractual expenses, the primary highlights are that we renewed our growth media for our email accounts in the amount of $840. And our trash collection that is booked for January was $1,773. And the reason this is high is because it reflects 3 months of the Art Guild's trash collection. So it's a cumulative amount that we expended. So that's really the highlights of the main financials. A couple other items are that I have not yet scheduled the financial audit for FY20, but should be shortly. And we have a couple, we have one, other than approving the subrecipient agreement amendment, we also have a request for a roll call vote, which has been amended a little bit from when I sent out the report. Rather than the $1,133 expenditure, Amanda was able to analyze that, the need for that, and reduced it down to $850. And maybe Amanda, you would like to highlight that, or if you want to add anything?
Well, we can save money by going to an annual subscription for Zoom versus the month-to-month that we have been paying all this time. And we can further save some funding by cutting down on the number of Zoom licenses that we are subscribed for. And I was just looking at the previous invoice. It doesn't specify, but it looks like they are charging a 5% state tax. So for the full year of a subscription at a smaller amount of licenses would be $850. Add in maybe another $50. So probably about $900 per year for the new subscription. And there's always the possibility that we could provide Zoom with the paperwork showing that we're exempt from paying that tax if we want to follow up on that.
We can do that. We can do that as long as we're not in a crunch for timing. We can provide them with that documentation.
But the $850 a year would be a significant savings on what we have been paying, which has been about $175 per month. So I think what has helped is that we're multiple months into the process, so we have a better idea of what our needs are. And in the beginning, I think, subscribed to a little more than we needed because we didn't really know exactly how much we needed. But with the one that I'm recommending, that would be $850. That would allow us 3 Zoom licenses. So 1 for me, 2 for anybody else who might need to host an essential meeting. And those licenses can be reassigned to anybody who needs one for a period of time. So I think that's plenty.
Okay. So we have approval of the financials, and we have the approval of the subrecipient agreement to extend the utilization period from December 30th to June 30th. And then we have a roll call vote for the $850 for the annual Zoom contract.
Marilyn, can you speak to the remaining funds from the CARES Act, and also what anticipated expenses we might already know that we'll have between now and the end of June?
Sure. Let's see. I have that in here somewhere. Hold on. So it looks like we have about $7,000 remaining. And from that amount, we would have the, obviously the Zoom renewal. We would have staff time for the COVID functions for, let's see, November, December, January, and whatever would be going forward. I'm sure that will be lower amounts than we've had in the past. For example, if we decided to open the community hall, we wanted to fund major cleaning, we could do that. We could purchase additional PPE equipment if we wanted to get dispensers for the face masks or the, disinfectants and things like that. If we needed to do some additional cleaning or COVID-related safety for the town park, we could do things like that. So, that would be the type of spending.
Perfect, thank you.
So
We can't do additional grants, I don't think, out of this pool.
just to add one more thing,
Mhm.
legal services. If
Right.
at some
Legal
point,
services.
if the town needs to pass additional temporary emergency ordinances, like we did for outdoor seating and things like that, then we would need to pay our attorney for that. So it would be good if we had something in reserve, because we just don't know what's going to happen between now and June.
That's true.
Okay, I'm sure it will only get better. Let me go through these things. First, I'll make a motion to approve extension of the time frame for use of CARES Act funds under the subrecipient agreement with Fairfax County.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, I will make a motion to approve the expenditure of up to $925 for annual renewal of the Zoom license for the town. That amount including the $850, but making allotment for the potential that there will be a tax charge and making sure that there's enough for it. We hope it will be $850, but the motion will be for up to $925 for renewal of the annual Zoom contract.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote because of the amount of money involved. Holloway, aye.
Effross, aye.
All aye.
Oh, aye.
Line I.
Green eye.
Thank you. And then I will make a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Anything else?
That's it for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to citizens' remarks. I'm not aware of any other than when we get to the item later in the agenda about the town hall. We, of course, had a number of submittals with regard to that, but we can discuss that when we get. But outside of the town hall dedication, I don't have any additional citizen remarks that I received. So that moves us to committees. The Planning Commission. You are on mute.
Apologies. The only thing on our agenda is the recommendation of the final use permit for the Harrington property. Everything had been deemed to be in order at the last Planning Commission meeting on the subject for the building of the shed and the garage back in July of 2020. And the only thing that needed to be finalized was the consolidation of the lots, which was in fact filed and recorded on December 7th, 2020. So the Planning Commission recommends the Town Council approve the residential final use permit for the construction.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve a final use permit for the construction of the shed and detached garage at 12752 Chapel Street.
Second.
And the adjacent lot 42. And there's a second. For discussion, I would like to publicly thank Mark and Mona for following through on this process and paperwork, particularly in this time of the pandemic, are very difficult. And I know Mona had to go through a lot to get it done. And it seems like you're having to reinvent the wheel every time one of these is done. And it's very challenging. So many thanks to the Harringtons for taking care of this. Many thanks to Amanda and Kathy for pursuing it, because it's important that we set a precedent for how we handle stuff like this, that we do it and we do it right and we do it consistently and we treat everyone the same way, no matter who they are, to make sure that they comply with the rules and that it's done in the right way. And our rules, like any other governments, are sometimes difficult and sometimes seem like a pain, but there's a reason for them. And in this case, there's a very good reason for the rules that we have. So the compliance was necessary. That's why it was pursued. And many people played a role in making that happen. Also, Pat Pline, Steve Effross were also involved in helping guide the process forward, show the process can be done. Pat and Astaire went through the process themselves. So this is something where it takes a town to get things done. And here it worked. Everyone worked together and with respect to get it done. So this is great. And don't forget this, okay? The next time one of these things comes up, people, oh my gosh, there's never any compliance. There's never any compliance. Yes, there is. It takes patience. It takes persistence. We don't pull out a big mallet and run around whacking people. That isn't our way because it's a small, tight-knit community. We don't want to do that. As a result, it takes patience, it takes perseverance, it takes time, but it does get done. And this, and there are many others, are examples where things got done. I mean, just go through the list of the things we've been through that when we were in the middle of them, everyone was thinking this will never happen. You know, we're going to have to go to court, da, 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 da. They all got resolved. And as we resolve these, and we build a trail, we create a pattern, and people see that we're being firm but respectful, we'll continue to get greater compliance. And you'll have something you can hold up to people. And I'll tell you, and Steve knows this because he talked about this for the last 50 years or whatever that he's been in Clifton. Steve was always like, you don't do compliance, you don't do compliance. And, you know, perhaps kind of right. But I think we changed that. We changed the culture. And that's happened over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years maybe, that we've really stepped it up and changed it, but we've done it in a Clifton way. And Amanda and Kathy are absolutely critical to that as well, being on the front lines with it. But it's very, very important. So don't forget these important milestones. And as we continue to pave the path with these examples of success, where when they're done, we have people in the community feeling good about things and wanting to be part of the community. So we're not alienating people. And we're getting compliance on things that are important. Again, we don't take stuff up where it's, you know, happy to glad or that sort of thing, but these are actually important. So that's the discussion. And I just don't want people to forget the hard work that was done to make it happen and the importance of getting it done. So with that, we have a motion and a second. If there's no additional discussion, we'll have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Planning Commission, anything else?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Zoning Administrator.
I'll try to make my report shorter than last month. Last Tuesday, Royce and I went to 7184 Clifton Road, and we did a little walkthrough with the builder, who's, as you know, is also the owner currently. We were able to document some progress that's been made, and we've been told that even more progress has been made since our visit, mainly for the eve returns, which were supposed to be redone to look more like what was approved in the original certificate of appropriateness. There are still some things that he needs to do with the county. He needs to have both of his retaining walls and or guardrails for those walls inspected and passed by the county. So we're hoping that we'll see that he's done that in the next month. He has not yet, and this is more to the Planning Commission side of things, but he has not yet gotten approval from the county for what I call a revised plan of development, but what the county would call a new plan of development. Basically, something to demonstrate the changes that were made to the original plan that was approved by the county and the town. So we're waiting to see that. That's a big thing that needs to be done. He's applied for it and is just waiting to hear back. He has installed features and materials that over the past 6 years have just adamantly been refused by the ARB. They are not approvable. However, he is asking once again to receive an exception on some of these features. Number one would be the guardrail that's on the front retaining wall, which unfortunately is the feature that is most visible from the road. If you have driven past and seen, it is currently pressure treated wood. That was specifically not allowed. It was supposed to be wrought iron. It was required back in 2015, and the ARB reiterated that back in September of 2020 when the issue came up again. Unfortunately, he installed the wood rail, and he is currently in the process of asking the ARB to allow it. So I don't know how that will turn out for him, but that's currently where he's at with that. The same thing with the side lights. He was, for the front door, he was specifically told no side lights. And then when he put in side lights, the ARB said, well, okay, you can have side lights, but they must be changed to be either frosted or clear glass, not the faux leaded stained glass look that you currently have. He's asking for an exception for that because to remove the side lights and replace them as he previously agreed to do back in September would compromise the energy efficiency of the whole front door apparatus. So I have not seen that the ARB has discussed or given him any kind of answer on that. Above and beyond that, he was reminded that he still needs to pay all of his outstanding fees to the town, which include the review fees from the ARB, the Planning Commission, and the town engineer, which is probably around, I don't know, $1,500. And once he's just given us everything, shown that he's passed all of his inspections, got all of his permits, paid all of his fees, then he can have the final use permit from the town, and the town would sign off on the occupancy permit from the county. So some progress has been made, but in other ways, not. The opposite of progress. He has at least demonstrated a continued willingness to work with the town and try to make things the best that he can. As far as commercial use permits, 2 notices were sent out today for businesses that have moved their spaces within the past couple of years that never applied for new use permits. This is really important from a parking allocation standpoint, and also just because the town wants to know what businesses there are and where they are located. And oftentimes businesses experience other changes over the years, such as a change in ownership, a change in hours, a change in number of employees, or the type of services. A fair amount of changes happen over time for most businesses. So if anybody comes up to you, council members, committee chairs, and asks about use permits, please let them know that if you are moving your space, if you are increasing it, or even if you're decreasing it, we do need to have a new use permit application, just so that we can keep our records up to date and make sure that we are preventing any further complications with the parking situation in town. And I just have to say, though, that every business owner that we've contacted over the past 6 months has been very cooperative.
Question to you and Kathy, and then for the council's consideration. Have we thought about having a business license or a use permit that we would require businesses to have posted in their place of business? I was watching a program the other day, some sort of something Creek, the TV program, And there, the one guy, David Rose, had just opened up a new business, and he had a business license that he got from the town government, which was a lot, frankly, like our town government. They have a mayor, like me, and a town council. So much like small town government, but there they had this little business license, and you see those other places. Should we think about having that? It seems like it might be useful.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have that requirement. And I think it would be a good idea probably to put it in the code. Fairfax City definitely has that requirement. You have to post the business license you get from the city. I don't know if the county has the same requirement, but it's not that uncommon. And then it would be pretty clear.
Right.
Whatever reason. I mean, you know, sometimes restaurants, the health department goes in to look at things. You have the fire marshal going in. In fact, we had a situation a couple of years ago where the fire marshal went to check out one of the churches and wanted to know where their permits were. And because we didn't require them to post it, you know, we had to dig up the permit, get it to the church, get it to the fire marshal. But it is a good idea. And I think it's one of those things we can stick in the code pretty easily along with, you know, several other cleanup items. Certainly wouldn't be controversial. And it's easy to do because Amanda's very thorough about sending the businesses a signed copy of the use permit.
Well, and I think we could actually create a business license out of the use permit. The use permit itself is a little dense. It's a couple pages.
Mhm.
You could probably turn that into something that looks like
Right.
a business license.
Mhm.
I think we should do that. I'd like to do that. And then Amanda's done so much work digging these things up. Just a moment. Amanda's done so much work digging these things up that we could create them
Sure.
for the businesses that exist. And then as
Mhm.
new ones come in, we could create new ones. Marilyn, did you have something you wanted to add? You're on mute. You're on mute.
We do issue business licenses each year, send them out to the businesses. And my assumption was that they did post their license. I don't know that it actually requires it though in the, you know, I don't know that the business license application states that it's a requirement for them to post it. But we do issue business licenses every year to
What
each
do they
business.
what do they look like?
I'll be glad to send you one.
Okay, please do. I you know, the business license, that's like an annual thing. That's one thing. The other thing is just the use permit. To me, it would be very useful for Amanda to walk into Market Wealth, whatever, and look on the wall and go, dude, you're in 207 and this says you're in 201. Those don't match. And there wouldn't be any, I don't know. It'd just be like black and white. There it would be. And it would be nice to have that. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the thought would be on that, or if it's some combination. I don't know if they'd have to put a new one up each year, or if it would be the one they were granted, like the use permit. Thoughts? Kathy?
No, I think it's a good idea. Why shouldn't we do that? Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a difficult thing to do. I think let's take a look at, I haven't seen what is sent out by Maryland, but it may very well do to use that and maybe if necessary, add something to it. So it's clear that the businesses have the use permit too, and it's for that location.
Yep. Good. Let's do that. I want to do that. Do we need to do anything in your mind tonight besides decide that this is the direction the council wants to go in? Do we need, in your mind, a motion to say that we want to do this and we want to decide what it is we need to do it? Which seems
I I don't think so.
I agree.
I think it's one of those administrative things that the commission can do just as it changes, its use permit online. It requires notices of the hearing to be put up. I think it's just one more requirement to say, here's the form, and then you have to put it up once you get it. That's all.
Must be posted.
Right.
Well, you'd need to know, for the purposes that, Bill, you want to do this for, the license that we get, the business license we get from Maryland is a pro forma thing that just says you've got a business license.
Right.
If you want something that you can look at on the wall that tells you you have a business license for this location with this many parking spaces, or whatever your conditions are that you want to put in it, then you need to, if we're going to look at doing this, and clearly you want to do it, that's fine. I'm not opposed to that. You need to include what information you want on that license that you want.
I think what we can do is Amanda and I can send out a draft, a sample, for example, just, by email to everybody and get people's comments. I think it should be easy and quick to do. I don't know that anything formal has to be done. It can be just one of the listed administrative requirements that's on the Planning Commission's website.
And in my mind, it would be a one-time thing. You wouldn't have to pull it out of the frame and put in the new one each year.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless there were changes made and you got a new one, then you'd have to put the new one in.
So it's more like the use permit than it is the business.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just trying to
It is.
tighten it down.
Because
Yep.
it would need that information. Mhm.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the purpose it would serve. Because that's what we always ask.
The concern that I have is just that, going forward, sending a new certificate like that to new use permit applicants would not be a problem. But going back through every single business in town would be very time consuming. And I don't know that it's something that I would be able to tackle on my own, because that would be very labor intensive and would require multiple sets of eyes, I think, just to make sure that there aren't any errors. And there are some businesses for which a use permit was approved but never issued. So actually those people could probably really benefit from having something like that. But it's not going to be an easy thing to do for any one person, especially if it's me.
Well,
Maybe
we won't make you do it alone. And I think we'll just do it as the new ones come forward. And I've noticed most of the things tend to be reviewed anyway with people asking for changes. And it's a good time to just do that.
We have
Okay.
we have a pretty accurate rundown of the businesses that are operating in town. Do one, maybe two a month or something like that.
We do.
Yeah.
And a lot of them come up anyway or have come up in the past year. So I think we can fit that in and get that taken care of without it too much additional work.
It's easy for me to say. I'm not the one doing it, so I'll bite my tongue now, Amanda.
Well, but you could help when we get ready.
all right, well, we got to start somewhere, and
Yep.
we'd start going forward. And it would be useful to work backward as well, to the extent we can. It would be
Right.
good for the town. It would be good for the businesses. Where there's not a race. Currently, we don't have any. So the more we have, the better off we are. Okay, good. Please move forward on that, and we'll try and get something in place. And then next time we do a change to the code, we could include that. Marilyn?
Sure.
I do think it would make sense to have the use permit, which is not an annual process, to have that separate from the business license, which is an annual process.
Yes, I agree.
Especially because there are a number of companies that have business licenses but not use permits because they're not physically located in the town. Like Google Fi,
Mhm.
they don't have a use permit.
Okay, so use permit, that's the focus. And you will go off and figure out how it should look. Because this is something to be useful to us and useful to the community. So we can walk in and go, you don't have a use permit, or you do have a use permit and it matches what you're doing, or it doesn't match what you're doing. It would be a good thing to have. Okay. Anything else? Zoning administrator, is that it?
That's it.
Architecture Review Board.
Did not meet.
Okay, streetscape, I don't know if there's anything to say there, but as long as we're talking about streetscape, it might be a useful opportunity to update people on the broken sign, the historical marker. We can't take any action, it's not on the agenda, but you could certainly update people on what's going on with it.
Yeah, I can give you an update on that, Bill. So I've been in touch with the historical, the Virginia Historical
Department of
Entity, Department of Historical
Resources.
Resources. Yeah, so it's between them and the department that does the directional signs on the highway, like when you're out on I-95 and it says, you know, Burger King this way. So there's an entity there that maintains signs, as well as the historical resources folks that work jointly on this. The deal is it's about, I think, $2,000 to have it replaced. It's 600 and something to have the sign recast. So there's a place in Oklahoma that, or not Oklahoma, but Ohio, that they contract with that recasts these aluminum signs, and that's about $600, and it's $1,300 to have it installed. However, in certain cases, VDOT, the local VDOT folks, will install those at no cost to the town. So we will work through the process and see if we can secure a commitment from VDOT to install this at the point that it comes in. We can vote on it probably next month, because we need to confirm the wording of the signage to make sure that it's correct. We haven't done that yet. Make a commitment to procure the sign. There's a form that we need to fill out and return. We haven't done that yet. So I think the first step would be committing to the expense of the sign itself, and then simultaneously working with VDOT to secure an agreement to install it and get it done sometime this spring. My recommendation would be that we find a slightly safer spot to put the sign up, back off the parking area. I think that it was actually previously bumped and twisted around a bit, and then the last contact did it in. So it's evident that we need to find a new spot for that sign. But more to follow next month, Bill.
Okay, agreed. New location. We've asked. Have you talked to Margot about confirming the wording?
I've sent her a note on that with the actual wording, and
Okay.
I need to follow up to hear
Just
back
follow.
from her in the committee. Daryl, I think you're on that committee, correct?
Yes. Yeah, but you don't want me to confirm the wording.
Yeah, I sent it to Margot only, but if you want to follow up, Daryl, or I will as well. I didn't send it to the whole committee, just Margot.
Yeah, I'll follow. I can follow up with her, and
And the state
Daryl,
actually confirms as well before they go through the process of recasting it.
So since they're going to remake it, we're going to put it back up again. The state advises that you check to see whether it makes sense anymore. And I don't know how old that thing is, 25 years or something like that. To have another look. I mean, I've read it before. It looked reasonable to me, but it doesn't hurt to have our history committee look at it and the state will look at it again. But, you know, frankly, unless somebody says otherwise, it'll just look like it looks now, and they'll redo it. The $600 sounds like a good deal to me. Better deal than the $1,300 to stick it in the ground, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm actually going to meet the crew tomorrow to pick up the broken sign. So
Okay.
I'm hoping that they get that back to the folks that make them and reuse the metal.
Right. And you've got pictures of it? We all have
Yes.
pictures of it? We have the wording? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
I have the pictures of it, and the wording of it is actually recorded in the state database. So you you could put, it's actually not available right now because they took it down since it's not available to the public, but they have the wording in their database as well.
Okay. All right, let's move along to renaming unfinished business, renaming Clifton Town Hall in honor of Wayne H. Nickum. We talked about this last month, so people would be aware of it. I've heard nothing but positive things about this, and I'll mention that in a minute. But I do want to mention process, because I've been here a long time. Others have been here longer than me. And I don't know how many things I've worked on. We redid the playground equipment in the park like 20 years ago. And we spent like a year planning it. And when it went in, people went, "Oh my gosh, you're changing the playground equipment? How come no one told me?" Like, oh, brother. Okay, so we really make sure that we don't do things precipitously, that we give people an opportunity to weigh in and tell us what they think, and people don't go, "How did that happen?" So even though everyone was very positive about this at the last meeting, we deliberately and intentionally wanted to wait a month, put it on the agenda, and also follow up with the county, make sure we were doing things in the right way before we approve this. And, you know, take a breath, sleep on it, make sure it feels good. And I'll tell you, I've gotten input, as have you, from community leaders, long-term community leaders around Clifton, a variety of different people. Michelle Stein, who's been CBA president for a long time. Tom Peterson, who's been selling ice cream for many years and was also the mayor. Rick Peterson, who's been building buildings around Fairfax County and Metro DC area for many years. Randy Thompson, who's been playing music in many countries, Belgium and otherwise, for many, many years. So you can see the kind of diverse group we're talking about here. Every one of them unanimously in support of this. I was thinking about this. Wayne Nickum joined the council, like some of you, at a time when we had a different president, President Nixon. Okay, so it was a while ago that this guy joined the council, and he just got off the council recently. And if not for, you know, the things that affect everybody as you get older, he'd still be sitting at the end of the table, you know, going at it every meeting. So never really been anybody like him in the history of the town, anything I've ever seen, anybody that was involved for close to 50 years in the governance of the town and the maintenance of the town, and not just sitting back and pontificating, but doing things. I remember one night we heard a big crash, the storm. And I looked out the window and a giant branch had fallen off of our tree in the backyard. And I was like, oh man. So I just went back to sleep, of course. And around 5 a.m, I hear this ring, like Clifton Chainsaw Massacre. And I get this, "Tree fell in your backyard." And Wayne's out there cutting my tree up. You know, I didn't ask, he's just doing it. In fact, when I moved to Clifton, the first day we moved in, we packed all our stuff in, went back to where we were living to get another load, came back, and the lawn had been mowed. Wayne came over and mowed the lawn. So there's really nobody like this guy that carries decades and decades and decades of history, and is one of the people that preserved Clifton as a historic resource, but also made it grow as an energetic and living community, which to me is what's so important about Clifton. It's not like Williamsburg is kind of there and people wear little outfits and it's very nice. I love that. It's not like these places that are just commercial hubs. Clifton combines residents, business, preserving what's best about the past with what's best about the future. So Wayne created that model. And one of the things I always talk about, because I lived next to Wayne for a long, long, long time, seems like a really long time, with Wayne right next door, is treating everybody the same way. You know, you see people come and go in government, and they go, I'm on the council, I should get favoritism. And the answer is no, you shouldn't. You should be held, in fact, to a higher standard. You should make sure that you do everything right. And everybody should be treated the same way, because in a small town like ours, the way you keep the peace is for everyone to know they're treated the same way. Whether you're loved or not loved or whatever, you're in this group or in that group, doesn't matter. You're going to get treated the same way. That keeps us out of trouble doing that. And that was always the way Wayne approached everything in the 43 years or whatever that he was serving as mayor or on the council. So an honor well earned and one not to be forgotten. And the other thing is to move quickly with the idea of Wayne being able to know how much the community treasures the contributions he's made, and let him know now while he can enjoy it. So that's the idea. As I said, many community leaders have all spoken out unanimously in support. And I was asked to go chase this down with the county, and I've done more than that. We've gotten the Board of Supervisors to pass a resolution in favor of it, with the final piece that the county actually has a process for renaming buildings. And part of that process is to run it through their history committee to make sure that everything is okay, whatever. So that's technically the last step with the county. The Board of Supervisors were unanimously in support of renaming the facility the Wayne H. Nickum Clifton Town Hall. And a resolution was passed in favor of that. And one of the things that supported that was, as Phyllis sent out, I think 17 years ago, Fairfax County dedicated a day, Wayne Nickum Day in Fairfax County. And they also gave him some honor when he stepped down from the council. So the county is very familiar as well with all the contributions Wayne has made. You can imagine when he was mayor, calling the supervisors on a regular basis, how they would remember that sort of thing, getting calls from Wayne on a regular basis. So we've done our homework. I know you guys wanted to make sure we did that so that we're doing it the right way. We are doing that. And that's the feedback that we've gotten. So I wanted to give that background on it and then open it up to see if there was any discussion. Thoughts, council members?
So Bill, are we free then to vote to do this at this point?
Yes, we are. And the final step, Pat, will be that the Fairfax County History Committee has to sign off on it, as they do with all renamings of all buildings in the county. They actually have a policy for this. And the way the policy works is the governing body says, I want to do this. And then it is conditioned upon them, the history committee, passing it and making sure there are no issues. So what we're doing is saying we agree that this should happen. Then we've approved it, the Board of Supervisors has approved it. And then the final check is the history committee, I don't know, doing some background investigation. The thing is, the county already knows all about Wayne, but that's what it is. We're ready to approve that it's done from our end, it's done from the Board of Supervisors, but for this check through the history committee.
So later we can decide what it looks like on the building, and not,
Oh yeah,
the details come later, right?
yes, yep.
So do you need a motion? I mean, I don't think
Yes.
there's anybody who disagrees with this. I think we all said that last month. And
Yeah,
we're
no,
doing
we
it
need-
the right way, which is what you said. So do you need a motion? I'll be happy to make a motion.
Yeah, please do.
I make a motion to rename or to name the Clifton, what do we call it? Town Hall to the Wayne H. Nickum Clifton Town Hall.
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, done. Great. Yeah, it's great. It's preserving important parts of our history. And I will note to you that in my extensive work on the history committee, there's a real focus for history people on what happened 100 years ago or 150 years ago, and not as much focus on what happened 30 years ago. And I think, in some cases, because, well, I don't know, I was kind of the same age I am now when Reagan was president or something, but that's not the case. Like, that actually is history. And it's our job to make sure we capture and recognize important historic contributions, especially to a community where obviously we're steeped in history. It's a historic district. So this is something to be very proud of. So this is done, as Pat noted, process-wise. The history committee has to come back and say they've checked it. I mean, the Fairfax County History Committee has to make sure it goes through their process in accordance with the county's process. So great, thank you.
Yeah. Can I just add something here? I think
Yes.
that what Patrick was saying is really in the details, but what stands out to me so much is the story of his contribution, and not just his name going on the wall, but actually being able to capture what he did to be able to receive that honor. I think your comment about it being recent history and being a story that children who walk into the town hall, adults who walk into the town hall can really be able to read that story and to read what it means to serve, and not just to give back when you have time, but to actually make that make a life of service. So I look forward to the discussion once everything moves forward into how we can actually capture that story.
And with regard to, if you will, interpretive signage about the contributions of Wayne Nickum and the service of Wayne Nickum, that we want to capture that, not just a name on a building. Who was that? But as you say, Lynn, use it as a teaching moment for children, but for others as well. And Wayne is a unique guy. He's not really like everybody else, but the point is anybody can be a contributor. Anybody can have a heart of gold to be able to give to the community in their own way. What a great example. So yes, let's focus on that. The other thing is, it's not on this month's agenda, we'll need to pick it up a month or the month after, signage for the town park. This would be a companion piece to that. And I do see this, frankly, as bookends, right? Because that naming and that signage is the origin of this community. And this naming and this signage is current day. Where are we? Where are we today as a community? I think that's awesome. I think that's the way we ought to be doing things with history. So very, very exciting. Okay, moving on. The spring cleanup event. Laura McDonald proposed that we organize a cleanup this spring. And, people will note we have a cleanup. However, we've also got the pandemic. And so having everybody, the way the cleanup used to work, as I understand it, was everyone would huddle in a group like a rugby scrum, and they'd all move around together. And this would create COVID problems. So for this year's cleanup, it would be different. There would be social distancing and masking and protocols. And the idea would be, I think, speaking from Laura's position, and she can speak for herself, but not till I speak for her first. The idea would be that just because we're in a pandemic doesn't mean we don't care about the earth and we don't care about the environment. We don't care about cleanup. Let's do cleanup. Let's do it. Let's do it the right way and not forget about this. So with that, Laura can speak to it as well.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, we'd like to organize our annual cleanup. And we would, minus the donuts and coffee, do it the same way that we always do. We assign people areas. We did have individual families approach us last spring that went out on their own. But I think that we can do, kind of like we usually do, assign people groups. We have bags. We have gloves that have been donated. It won't cost the town anything. And we usually go out a week or so before and kind of do a survey and target areas that need it more than others. So if we'll have to figure out a way how to do registration. Maybe I can coordinate with Michelle Stein and CBA on that, since they do registrations a lot, and we can figure out how to do that. Probably towards the end of March. We'll just have to see how the weather holds.
Okay, and then the idea will be that you'll give people particular assignments in particular locations and they'll know what to do.
Correct.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right, and one other thing, I noticed that the native plant resolution didn't make the agenda. We had to table it last month and it was supposed to be on this month.
What I don't have is I sent a red line back with my comments. I don't think we've seen the revised version go back out to the council to say, here is what we propose.
Actually, Margaret and I had signed up to talk about it last month, but I guess we ran out of time.
Okay, no matter how we got there, can you and Margaret create a clean version with the
Sure,
comments?
we only had one edit.
Okay, do you remember what it was?
Yeah, the first sentence that says, whereas populations of some native wildlife are believed to be declining.
Yes.
They are declining.
Oh, I changed it to believe because I actually don't have actual knowledge of declining plant populations. And Steve will, of course.
That's part of what we do with our surveys. So.
Okay, so we can rely on that. Okay, so that was the only change.
Correct.
And I'm familiar with that, and yes. So here's what we'll do.
Okay.
Can you send that out to the council as a clean version? Proposed final whatever resolution, and can we address it next month? Vote on it next month. Is that okay, council members?
Yes? Sounds good. I don't think we'll be planting.
I'll have to make sure that I don't have to work, but if I'm not available, I'm sure Margaret would be available if anyone had any questions.
Yeah.
Please make sure that you copy me, because I will make sure that it gets on the agenda too. I keep a list and remind people so that.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to make it happen, and I appreciate the offer of one of you being available. It won't be for me, but for the other council members, they may ask things like, what does this mean in real life as we implement this? How will it affect what we do? So they might have those questions. It'd be good to have somebody who could.
Sure. Yeah, I just have to look at my schedule. We often do programming Tuesdays and Thursday evenings, so.
Okay. All right, that sounds great. Amanda, please remember to tell me to put it on the agenda for next month. And then send out the proposed final.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. There's nothing else on the agenda. We can always add more by unanimous consent if there's other things people wish to speak about, but if you don't, we can be done.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
I was gonna say, we won't vote on it if it's not seconded. But this was seconded, okay. Any discussion of that? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you. And I will note that the waters are calm. And
Right.
we've been working very hard for the waters to be calm. In my view, as a governmental body, we ought not to be making people's lives difficult. We should be making them easy. And that's what we're trying to do. So with that, everyone have a good evening. And we'll see you soon.
Hold on.
Good night.